What's up, everyone? Jeremy Majors here with Majors Academy Dog Training out of Green Bay, Wisconsin. And we are back again live Thirsty Thursdays, episode 64. And tonight we'll cover some bite work fundamentals. Uh, for those of you who don't know what bike work is, it's just sort of what I used to do with Schutzen training or police dog training, teaching dogs how to properly bite, teaching dogs how to let go when they're biting, and building on prey drive in order to get dogs to bite the way that we want them to. So that's what we'll go over. But I first want to make sure go over some common questions because I've got some questions on some other social media sites that I'll go over. Hi Kim, how are you? So we'll do that. And if you guys have any questions at any time, feel free to chime in. You can ask as many questions as you like. You're not subject to just one question. All right. All right, let's get started. All right, when guests come over, I put the dog in place, but he still barks and growls at first. What is the best way to stop this? The best way to stop this is to just allow time to sort of seep in. It's okay if they bark at first, as long as they're on that place. That's a really good first step. So just make sure the dog stays on place. Everything else, with enough time, will get better. All right. Thank you for your question. Okay, I'll do one more, and then cheers, Amy, and then you guys can chime in if you want. How do I keep my 90-pound pit bull from jumping on people as well as whining when he's out by himself? Okay, so first and foremost, with your 90-pound pit from jumping on people, you have to teach the dog that it's the wrong thing to do. And first and foremost, if the dog is jumping on you, definitely handle that first, right? Give the dog something that it may not like. Ignoring the dog may not be enough. You may have to get something the dog doesn't like, and by using a tool. And I would suggest you can start with the pet convincer. You can start with the dog you don't, and then go towards e-collar or a prong collar with a leash. Just give the dog a correction. Teach the dog what's right and wrong. If the dog jumps and it gets him any attention at any time, the dog is going to continue to do that. Okay, so get respect, because jumping is definitely a disrespectful thing, and so get respect from your dog, and the dog will stop jumping on other people as well. All right. Thank you for your question. Okay, let's start talking about some bite work. I think some people on here would like to know. I did an interview and I was talking about it earlier this week, but I wanted to go more in depth. I've missed watching Thursday. Glad to be able to watch. Yeah, glad you're back. You haven't been here in a while. Hope Dozer's doing all right. So anyway, so let's just get rid of some misconceptions first and foremost for those who don't who don't know what bite work is. Let's see something here. Hold on. Let me get to your question real quick. I gotta bring it up on Facebook because I can't see it on Facebook Live. Hey, Lise, what's up? All right. Okay, it's been so cold and icy. We have not been able to keep on our walks. We don't have a treadmill. Suggestions to keep him from getting bored inside. If he knows how to do place command really well, what you can do is have two beds and challenge him. Spread the beds apart like 20 feet or even in another room. Put your dog on place, tell him to stay, walk to the other bed, tell him to come to the other bed, tell him to lay down on that bed and walk back and forth. Doing that, walking him from, and then if you want to challenge him more, try going up the stairs with it or anywhere in the house really, to sort of proof the place command, but also give them some mental exercise and some physical exercise. You can also, if you have a German Shepherd, you can also look up some YouTube videos on nose work. That's always fun. Um, Teaching your dog how to use its nose to find what it wants. So that's another stimulating thing that you could do indoors with your dog to sort of get some energy out. Um, you don't have a treadmill, so that's fine there. But I'm usually outside with my dogs, despite, especially if you have a German Shepherd, they don't mind it. It's just us that mind it more. So I just put clothes on and I'm always outside, no matter how cold it is. Until the dogs are cold, I'm outside. All right, so yeah, back to some bite work. All right, so let's get rid of that myth. First and foremost, that bite work makes your dog more aggressive. That is a myth, okay? And I just got to tell people that for those of you that are don't really dabble into it or even know what it is. Um, Bite work does not make your dog more aggressive, right? So when you see the German Shepherd, when you see these Malinois, when you see Dobermans, Rottweilers, what have you, and they're doing bite work, which means biting the person, that does not mean that they are aggressive. Okay, that's not true. These dogs, excuse me, a lot of these dogs go home and be family pets. So they're not machines, they're regular dogs, they're regular pets, the good ones. Now there are some bad dogs out there that do bite in a negative way. Um, and 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 that's just not true. I mean that's just the reality. There's two different types of drives that you want to work with in bite drive. The first and foremost is prey drive. If you have a dog that has a lot of prey drive, well, let's define that so people who understand that. Prey drive, if your dog has prey drive, your dog really likes to chase the ball, uh, really likes to chase anything for that matter, not just the ball. Your dog is very aroused with squirrels, rabbits, even little dogs could be aroused, and that that may mean your dog has a lot of prey drive. Food motivated dogs are known to have a lot of prey drive as well. Um, but so that's how you can determine a good dog that's a good candidate for learning how to do bite work, prey drive. Okay, then there's another drive called defense drive coming from the dog being defensive, and that is something that should be left to a professional in a professional setting, in a Schutzen setting, or in a just with a trainer who knows what to do as far as being defensive. Um, so prey drive dogs really want to bite, and when you're teaching when you're teaching police dogs and competitive Schutzen dogs, they teach also defense drive, because defense drive also provokes courage in the dog. So, which they have to obviously show when they're after someone that could show them some adversity. So, all right. So bite work, back to bite work. If you have a big dog or even a small dog, you may want to start buying things that could handle a lot of bite work. The regular toys with the squeakies, those don't usually last for dogs who really like to grab and shake and bite and all that good stuff. So there's a website that I would recommend checking out, and it is fordogtrainers.com. FOR dogtrainers.com. They'll have a lot of good bite equipment and other equipment too that you could check out. But it's a working dog website, which just means those materials and stuff are made for the dog that is doing bite work a lot or just rigorous working dog. Um, so going back to it, let's just go through some rules with bite work, and this isn't in any order at all, but I'll just kind of jump back and forth. Dozer does love bike work. Yeah, it was awesome. I've trained and rehabbed many aggressive resource guarding issues. Train service cancer detection dogs. I would like to start a small academy to work with a handful of special cases. Any advice? Yeah, whenever you're starting, I'll just answer this real quickly. I want to get back to bite work, and then I'll answer it more in depth. But in my opinion, if you're looking to start out training dogs, and you just want to get your name out there and all that good stuff, because you just in the beginning you have to train every dog that you have the opportunity to. Then you can start getting in more specific cases like you mentioned. So first and foremost, contact rescues, local rescues, and start working with dogs that they may not feel comfortable working with, and then that gets your name out there as far as working with difficult dogs. I think working with difficult dogs helps you become successful quicker, because again, not a lot of trainers or rescue people or trainers are willing to work with the dogs that are more difficult. So that's what I would do. Start working there, and then you can start working with dogs that you want to work with. You know what I mean? So that's the short answer, but there's much more to it. If you send me a message or something, I can get more in depth with it. But thanks for your question. All right. So rule number one, when tugging or playing or doing bite work with your dog, is to make sure that you can play in a respectful way. Okay, you are going to get your dog to an aroused state. You are going to get your dog. Some dogs are going to take that as a challenge, right? When you're tugging, because they may start growling. They may start even barking with the toy in their mouth. So some dogs are going to give their best effort to try and win that game. Okay, and depending on how pronounced your dog is with, or how adamant they are with tugging, determines whether you should let them win or not. If you're wanting to promote bite work, and your dog's not very committed, then you let them win more times than not. But if your dog is crazy about it, then it doesn't matter, because the dog's just going to do bite work anyway, or he's going to come back for more anyway. So you're not going to discourage the dog that very, very badly wants to bite. Okay, so yeah, first and foremost, you want to have that game be very respectful. If your dog does decide to come off of the bite toy and bite you, or does anything that is, what we would label as bad, then you want to go ahead and give them a correction for that, and stop the game for a while, because some dogs, sort of see that they think, that may be necessary to do, and it's rare, but you want to be, in my opinion, you want to be in charge of the game. You want to start it, or you want to end it. More importantly, you want to end it when you want. And then once they give you what you want, then you can give it to them again. For example, the out command is taught to every dog that likes bite work, because that's a very respectful behavior from the dog. If the dog lets go of what it's biting on command, that's a very respectful behavior from them. So you're tugging with them, you're tugging with them, you're tugging with them, and then you should be able to say out, and the dog drop the toy, or let you have it. Okay. So how you achieve that is, you have to freeze up or hold the toy very still. And I think I got a couple videos on YouTube on sort of the technique, but it'd be hard to explain on online. But basically, you got to put your elbows on your knees. This is kind of a one way to do it, or lock your arms to your body and keep the toy in between your two arms like that. But you have to hold it still, and then say the word out. Now, um, it is a fact though. That's what they do first. So when you're in a when you're if you ever watch or Google Schutzen protection, and Schutzen is spelled Shutzhund. Schutzen. It's German for protection dog. If you ever Google that, just Google Schutzen protection, and um, you will see exactly what I'm talking about with the helper. The helper is the guy the dog bites, and they have a judge out there who judges on how well the dog listens and how adamant he is about biting the helper. Um, but you will see the helper freeze up when the judge signals him to freeze up, and then the dog will let go of the arm once if some dogs don't, but if the dog is obedient, the dog will let go of the arm. Um, when the handler, right, or the owner says out, the dog will let go. Okay, so I just want to briefly say too that every dog will eventually out if you can freeze up enough. If you're wiggling, if the dog is moving you, then you're prolonging that process. But if you can freeze up, and sometimes it takes some strength, if you can freeze up and just stand there, the dog, you don't even have to say out. The dog will just open its mouth eventually and maybe rebite, but the dog will let go briefly. That's your opportunity to give them something to do that is a good behavior, like sit, right? So as soon as they out, say sit. If they sit, then they can get the toy back again. But so that's sort of the other rule that I have. So one rule is the out command. The dog must sit. When you're playing tug of war with your dog, it's good to have, no matter how big they are or how small they are, it's good for them to let go when you say out, period. Okay? And the next important thing is the first thing was make sure the game is respectful. The dog shouldn't challenge you. It shouldn't be a challenging thing. The dog should just be having fun with you, as opposed to all this growling and all this, huffing and puffing when you do play tug of war. So that's that. Respectful play, and make sure your dog lets go of the toy when you want him to. And if you're looking to build prey drive in your dog, have one toy or one or two toys that you buy just for that. All the other toys can mean whatever, but with those two toys, once you're done playing with tug of war, and it shouldn't be longer than 5 minutes, because that's a long time, but after 5 minutes, put those toys back up and only bring them out when you're ready to play. Do not let the dog sit there and chew the toy. Keep it very exciting for the dog. Don't let the dog chew on the toy ever. If you see the dog chewing it, you can snatch it away. I usually can attach a leash to the toy that I'm working with, or a string, and then I'm maybe 10 feet away. So once I let the dog have it, right, he'll start to want to chew on it, obviously. And then I'll wait for my opportunity for him to kind of let go a little bit, and then I'll snatch it away from him. And then we'll go back to playing tug of war or something like that. But another good tool to build prey drive is the what do you call that thing? Flirt pole. So what that is just can imagine just a long stick with a string on it, just like they play with those little cats. But they actually have those for dogs now. That can build prey drive in your dog. Just allowing your dog to chase, and then achieve getting the the end of the flirt pole or whatever it is, the toy that you're working with. Um, so I'll tell you a couple of things that. Let me take a break here and I'll ask a question or answer a question. Okay, walking a boxer and dog reactive pit bull. Walking a boxer and dog reactive pit bull. A guy drove up on our walk and let a dog loose out of the car. I yell, my one dog is dog aggressive, and as the dog comes up, I yell, no, loud, and hold low on leash with Duncan the pit. All went well. However, now Duncan is reactive, jumping, circling, growling, and I'm walking, saying no. This goes on for 100 yards. How do I correct that? Duncan is reactive, jumping, circling. Oh, well, continue to correct. If you're working with prong collar and a leash, continue to correct with that. You can also do e-collar corrections, doggy don't, pet convincer. There's just many things. I mean, you know, depending on how stubborn the dog is, you may even have to use an e-collar to correct. But go through all those tools that I mentioned first, see what you get. All right, thank you for your question. Feel free, guys. Anybody who Amy says love our flirt pole. Can't say that word today. Good exercise and yes, builds prey drive for sure. Anybody who's watching now, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. We're not just talking about bite work. We can answer questions as well. But in general, we're just going to go back to, if we have a slowdown in questions, is bite work. Okay, because I can talk about it all day long, but I don't want to bore anybody. So yeah. Okay, so what bite work has taught me when working with high-level Schutzhund dogs, protection dogs, when working with police dogs. Most people have a jaded perspective on what those dogs are. They don't think, because they only see one side. They see a very intense dog when they see him work. They only see one side. So, but they're not any different than the average dog, the average pet owner. I ain't getting no. I don't have any Falcons gear, except maybe a Brett Favre's jersey when he played for the Falcons. How about that? But that was a brief stint. So anyway, but I am cheering for them. I mean, they're doing good, man. I gotta admit. I was told last year that obedience was the last thing they teach a working dog. I mean, I'm not surprised. Um, I'm not surprised. I mean, people have different philosophies on when to teach obedience. Well, I'll tell you this though, Lise. It does make sense as far as when you're teaching a puppy, right? Because you don't want to hammer a puppy with obedience. You don't even want to hammer any dog with obedience. But when you're doing bite work with a puppy and a young dog, you're just promoting their prey drive. So that isn't something that needs a whole lot of obedience, because you want the dog to be as outgoing as possible, and then start shaping the dog's behavior as they understand what you want. So if their approach is to teach bite work or protection side of things, that's fine. You know, I just remember working with a bunch of puppies, and that's the only thing that we would do is promote prey drive. But what about a 3 or 4 year old dog? What's your thought on that? Again, you want the dog to be enthusiastic. Okay, so obedience sometimes, well, it depends on the dog, but it depends on the dog. I feel confident that I would be able to safely teach a dog bite work that doesn't know, is not obedient yet. You know, because again, all you're doing is promoting their prey drive. And so, for example, 3 or 4 year old dog comes to the club, comes to a Schützen club, and what I would do, right, is we could go through obedience, we could go through protection, and we can go through tracking. But I wouldn't have a problem teaching that dog protection work. That's what I'm saying. Because if you know how to do it in a safe way, um, all the dog has to learn is, um, well, the dog really doesn't have to know much at all except have prey drive. Because you're just building on their natural, I want to bite, I want to get this, I want to chase this, right? That's all. That's all that I'm concerned about when I'm working with a dog for the first time. And then I'm saying good when he does something good because they don't know yet. You don't want to expect the dog to know what out means um, right away until the dog feels safe with you. Because especially when you're working with that level of, that big of a dog and the dog isn't comfortable, uh, you know, with the situation first, you want to promote again, just keep biting and then letting them have it. Biting, let them have it. Biting, let them have it. Building it, building it, building it, and then once the dog is comfortable with that situation and scenario, then you can start to ask for more. But you can't ask for things the dog doesn't understand until the dog is understands it. Understands what you want from them. So first and foremost, the first thing that again is unless I'm working with a dog that does have obedience background, but again, the first thing that I'm teaching or I'm seeing, evaluating, and all that good stuff is how how intent is the dog about the toy, the whatever it is, and how, is the dog concentrated on me? Because some dogs, you can't really, and that's why they have flirt poles and things that on toys that have, you can create distance from a dog that could be a little nervous about you, because you'll run into dogs if you do bite work. You run into dogs that are nervous about playing tug of war with a stranger, because that's kind of a unsure type thing. And it could be intimidating to certain dogs. So that's why they have, you know, that's why I put leashes on my toys and or work with a flirt pole, because you can keep your distance, and then eventually, as you get comfortable, you can start closing the distance. You know, so can a dog have too much prey drive? If so, how do you reduce it? You can not. You don't necessarily reduce it. I don't know, but I know that you can control it, or um, yeah, just get more control over the dog to help the dog control that sort of impulsive behavior, and use it in a positive way as well. My dog has tons of prey drive. I mean, he just, good lord, he just loves just trying to find his toy when I throw it. I mean, he won't stop trying to find it in the dark. It could be pitch black dark. I throw the toy. He don't even know I threw it. And I say, go find it. And every single time, he'll come back with it because he's just that. And his tail is all the way up. When that prey drive is provoked, that tail is up. And they are ready, ready, ready to find it, ready to work. A flirt pole is just nothing but like, just picture like a long pole, maybe 10 feet or 8 feet or even 6 feet. And then they have a string, kind of like a string, and then there's just a toy attached to it, or a rag, or something like that. Just like a bigger version of what they tease cats with. Excuse me, cats with. That's a flirt pole. That's the same way my Maligator is. Yeah, man. You could you may want to get your dog into some, or just learn how to um, feed that prey drive, because that's the other thing. If it's not being fed, regularly or well enough, maybe that will have to do with some of the pent up energy. But there's many ways that you can feed it. You know what I mean? You can even take them hunting. You know, I plan on taking my dog pheasant hunting too. Yeah, that's my job, to teach you for sure. Yeah, I'll teach you some. I'll give you some good some good tips on to get rid of that energy. It's fun. It's fun. It's fun having a dog that is enthusiastic about doing a lot of stuff. All right, I think I had a question. Let's see. What are your thoughts on resource guarding? How do you go about reducing this behavior? Resource guarding. Okay, so resource guarding is kind of like what we were talking about in general. Um, First and foremost, if the dog thinks that he can guard, then that tells you that you don't have the respect that you have in that you should in the relationship between you and your dog. You have to have that sort of upper hand for their safety and just for your safety and anyone else's safety. If I go to grab something and my dog challenges me for it, that's a sign of disrespect. Okay, they should not be challenging you for anything that you give them. Okay, so we have to work to get that sort of level of respect from our dogs within the relationship with our dog, no matter what it is. If I step towards um, the toy, the food, the whatever it is, I want my dogs to back up, and I'm gonna claim that space or whatever, and I'm gonna be able to grab it because it could be something that could be harmful for them. So it's a good essential skill to have. Um, but so it does come down to respect. That's the general thing. Now, how you work on that um, is you're going to have to give your dog a correction if the dog decides to get ugly with you. Okay, and some sort of corrective tool for for that would probably be the best bet because that's the best way to help your dog learn, right? There's going to be trainers that say, "Oh, why don't you just get another toy or get another bone or get another treat or whatever." And it's kind of just going around the problem. Your dog simply should not challenge you in that scenario. Okay, you want to be able to take away that bone, that chew toy, that whatever it is when you want. So one of the things that I teach my dogs is drop it, leave it, but or out, and I'll start walking towards my dog, and I'll say out. Just like if you ever see two dogs, um, if one dog is having a bone or something like that, and the dog who is alpha, for lack of a better word, walks over to that dog, the submissive dog gets up and walks away from that bone, and then the alpha dog just goes and grabs it. You know what I mean? So that level of respect. So I usually give my dogs a verbal warning with out, and then I walk up with my body pressure and grab the toy and whatever it is. Because my dogs also like to eat certain stuff, like toys. And so once I know that they pulled out the stuffing and all that stuff, all right, now it's time to go get the toy and pick it up. Because I don't want to see them poop it out. It's disgusting. All right, you guys. If any of you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. Um, Otherwise, I can talk about a little bit more about bite work and the difference between bite work dogs and regular pet owners. Um, Obviously, always stay safe when doing that. Again, it is just because you're getting your dog to an adrenalized state, and sometimes some dogs can be sassy. You know what I mean? Um, and so what I would say is definitely if you're interested in just do some research on it. But one thing I do want to cover is um, there are like bite work dogs that are fearful dogs. There are bite work dogs that are submissive dogs. There are bite work dogs that are so any behavior, any sort of temperament that you would label a pet dog. There, those type of dogs are do bite work as well and police work because Schutzen is the temperament test or started out to be the temperament test of these of German Shepherds. And um, what you'll find is having to look into these dogs' eyes. You have to. One of the things that you have to do as a helper is what we're there for is to help the dog seem as good temperamented as possible, as pronounced as possible. But we also have to test the dog too. So that being said, we have to put pressure on the dog. And when you put pressure on the dog, you start to learn about the dog's temperament. Um, you start to learn how well they deal with adversity. You start to learn how well they deal with different helpers. So some good Schutzen trainers have many trainers, or excuse me, many helpers come and work their dog, many different sizes. Because sometimes if you work with the same helper, and then you go and for too long, and then you go to another helper, the dog may be freaked out, like whoa, right? So maybe one day in the future, when I have some more time, I'll be able to get into the sport again. But um, but anyway, it's just fascinating to see that you can actually, despite those dogs barking, very looks very violent, but it's just barking, but barking very, very loud and in your face, right? Because some dogs are barking like this, and they're like, "Give me that toy, give me that sleeve, give it to me, give it to me." Row, row. We teach them to do that, and then to look into their eyes and be able to decide whether or not that they are, or just distinguish whether they are, um, as serious as they project, is kind of cool. And here's one of the signs. So when you're in a trial or when you're working a dog, you're in you're in what they call a blind. So a blind is just two walls, and you're right here, and the dog comes in, finds you right here where my thumb is, and they sit there and they bark at you. It's called the hold and bark. And then so they're barking and holding until the handler or the owner um, comes, and then in that moment, right, the dog is right here, and I'm looking down at the dog's eyes. Depending on what the dog has given me, uh, depending on what the dog has given me in that bark, determines in training, not a trial, in training, what I'm going to be doing. If the dog is barking very sort of adamantly, like I can tell this dog is just really ready to bite the heck out of me, then I can be more soft, unless the owner asks me to get more out of the dog. So my demeanor is soft, or just even kill. If the dog is just like, rawr, rawr, you can tell this dog is really, really wanting it. Like, I want it, I want it, I want it, I want it, I want it. So one of the signs that you can, um, a couple of signs that you can look for when the dog really, 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 really wants it and doesn't care about anything else, is the dog will not take their eyes off of you. Okay, the dog will look you right back in the eye, and sometimes intensify if you look back in their eye. In that moment, when you're in the blind, the dog comes in, bark, 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 looking at you. If you look down at them in their eye, some dogs will really row, 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 right? And some of the helpers around the world will even put their head all the way down, like they got to stand up straight, but they'll put their head all the way down like this, eyes wide open, and really, really challenge that dog. And some dogs who are really like thrive on that will even give even more, because it's the dynamic of being a little nervous, because they don't know you and who's this new guy and stuff like that. So anyway, going back to training, if I see that the dog is not really there, not really wanting to be there, or is nervous, the dog will start to do this. It'll look at you, be barking, row, row, look at you, and then do this. And then go back to it, row, row, or continue to bark, but look this way, and then come back. The other cool sign that you can see if a dog is kind of not there is when the owner comes around behind the dog, the dog will kind of take a look to see if the owner is there. That's kind of a sign of the dog not being so sure that it wants to be there, or is just nervous about the whole novelty of it. So in training, if you're training with the same helper, then the dog will obviously get over that. But also good training helps the dog get over that. But that is a couple of ways on how strong you can sort of evaluate the dog, or how strong they're going to be. Just the way their demeanor in coming into the blind, how they come into the blind, how they stay in the blind, how they bark, is all signs that you can sort of evaluate their temperament. Obviously, there's a lot more dynamics to that temperament testing, um, but that's just the one cool dynamic of it. It's called the hold and bark, and it's the first sort of evaluation. No, it's not. It's the second, because the blind search is the first. So, anyway, I take that and I apply that sort of principle to the dogs that I work with, just pet owners, because again, some dogs, most pet owner dogs can't and don't know how to deal with adversity, but there are some pet owner dogs that will turn up, just like the dog I told you about. When you look them back in the eye, they will even be more, even, sort of give you more energy. So that's the same way with some pet dogs as well. But you never know that until you really are with a trainer or someone who knows how to bring it out in a safe way, and not to put too much pressure on the dog. But again, there's thousands and thousands of opinions out there, and Schutzhund trainers are so passionate about that they, often are very heated about things like that. So anywho, that's bite work. I hope you guys got something out of it. It's fun. It can be very, very, very energy sapping, and it doesn't take long at all. And it's challenging mentally, because you're mentally challenging your dog at a very high level of energy, which is awesome, because control at high energy is something that can be very beneficial. Some dogs don't listen when they're very high energy, right? So learning how to do bite work the correct way can help you give your dog more control, give you more control over your dog at high levels of adrenaline, and that is important. Oh, oh. Wait a minute. I got some questions coming in. I didn't even see them. No, that's not right. Sorry. Okay. So yeah, guys, bite work is very fun. I got a couple YouTube videos on it. It's fun. It's again, it really saps that high energy dog's energy, and it can make you guys kind of just bond a little bit better too. So, all right, if you guys have any final questions, feel free to type them now. Otherwise, we're gonna get out of here, and we're gonna see you guys next week. This is episode 64, so next week will be 65. And maybe you guys can suggest a topic that you would like me to talk about too. I'll talk about anything that involves dogs. And if I missed your question, I'll go ahead and answer it when offline here. But thank you guys for watching. Give me a thumbs up if you liked it. And yeah, we'll see you guys next time. I appreciate it. See you next week.